Welcome back to Hellos and Homies. Today's guest is a full circle moment for myself. On episode 43 of Hellos and Homies over a year and a half ago, 7-0 was wearing a Hellos Havoc trucker hat. An order came in by the name of Danny Grant, or Dannyrants as most of you would know him. And at that point in time, I hadn't heard much of him. Over the past year to 6 months, he's gone extremely viral on TikTok for his crazy storytelling. The life he's lived before the one he's currently living is one of insane stories and lore that you won't find anywhere else in this country. He hails from Melbourne, Victoria, and his work in the music scene is unmatched across all genres. As you may have seen him on TikTok, Dannyrants is never short of a good yarn or story, and I'm so glad I get to speak to him today. Bro, I came across you from your TikToks, obviously.
Yep.
But there was a point where, I don't know if you remember, but I messaged you and I was like, how'd you get the hat?
Yeah. I bought it.
Yeah, bro, that was crazy to me. And you bought off the back of the 7-0 pod, hey?
Yeah, so Jaquil was like a mate of mine, obviously. And then I saw it and I was like, fuck, I love the hat. Like, I'm a big hat guy.
Yeah.
And then I'll always, bro, like watch podcasts and I'll watch like dudes wearing hats. And I'm like, where did I get the hat from? And I started searching. And so I didn't even know it was a podcast at that time. I just liked Jaquil's hat. Yeah. And I just fucking bought it. And then he hit me up. He's like, what the fuck, you wearing this hat and this thing? And then, now I flog him flat out. Like, you would have seen me using heaps of stuff. But I'm just a hat guy. Like, that's, where it started.
One of my mates, he lives in Melbourne. He's a DJ. His name's Jerb. He sent me your TikTok of when you sold out your secret rave.
Yeah.
He was like, bro, no way this guy was your hat. I was like, fuck, he actually bought it like straight off the bat. Now I've sent him some, but I was like, yeah, bro, that was mad to see.
Yeah. I'm glad. Like, it's like, I'm always looking for like different brands too. So
I see you repping effing hard, eh?
Yeah, I fucking love effing, man. They're the best hats ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Street X and G'd Up are just on like.
Yeah, I know he's doing from Street X, man. He doesn't send me anything, the dog. Juicy smoothie. Where's my hats?
So for anyone unfamiliar to your work, you own 80 Proof or you're part owner of 80 Proof. Under 80 Proof, there's a few drink brands, G Up, Wet Pussy, and Drink Grog. And you're also part of the Hello Sunshine Festival.
Yeah.
What's it, bro? How do you even enter into a business of creating like alcohol from the get-go, like from scratch? How should I word that better? Like how did it even come about? How did it start? And how do you scale it as well?
So realistically, there's like multiple parts to it, right? So I can kind of tell you like how you scale it now, but in saying that, I got lucky a little bit, right? So when we started off, I'd obviously sold alcohol. So realistically, even though I work in entertainment and events and music, what funds that? It's like what funds movies? Popcorn. Yeah. What funds all those things? Alcohol, right? So take alcohol out of it, they don't really exist. Like that's why you don't have non-alcoholic events or there's no non-alcoholic festivals. They have to go by side because one can't fund the other. So effectively, I've been selling alcohol since I started working in the industry, like when I was a kid. So for me to like progress and move into selling alcohol at a higher level, it wasn't that much of a jump. And everyone's like, so how'd you go from there to there? But realistically, I was already doing it in a sense, but I was just selling it to consumer. And now I'm selling it to, people who are selling it to consumers. But you sort of start off, Barry, it's like you got to come up with a concept and idea, right? So our one was unique, that we had a brand that people already knew, like they're already drinking and consuming it. And we were sort of understood the culture. So I guess as a club owner, we were like, at the helm of it, right? At the helm, like sitting in the seat, sort of, encouraging and following that culture. And then once we sort of put it together and my partner trademarked it and all that sort of stuff, we were able to, sell directly to everybody and everybody knew what it was. So the language barrier was so quick. Yeah. And so like normally you got to educate and you got to go, cool, this is what this is and it tastes like cranberry and it does X, Y, and Z. We didn't need to do that. So we were like, hey, you go to nightclubs, you already know us, we work in nightclubs. Yeah, like we're going to connect the dots right here and go bang and create a brand that you already understand, but we went viral. So that's how. So I don't understand how anybody could create an alcohol brand without going viral or having some form of influence. Like people must do it. And again, I don't know how. There probably hasn't really been anyone's recently that have blown up that have just been like startups in the back of a garage. And I could probably guess that's like demotivating to hear. It's not to say it's impossible, but for us, we're probably the exception to that rule. But realistically, we went viral online so quickly. Like we were getting like hundreds of thousands of views when people started posting our stuff, and it was almost an accident. Like because we actually made the stuff to sell to club owners, not to First Choice Liquor and Coles and all these massive companies. That was never our intention, so we sort of fell into it. But once we sort of were in that scene and we sort of got the runs on the board, I'd been working in entertainment and I already knew all these influencers and I already knew these musicians, and I guess I had respect and I'd earned my stripes in that scene and people knew who I was, or they'd come up with me or I'd help them out or whatever. So I was able to readapt what I'd done and created with my brand and understand the regulations and like, how to move stuff and logistics and how it works, how to make it, like the procurement of the goods to, like the whole process. And then I was able to go, well, what's the missing part? It's hype, it's vibe, it's fucking, attention. And I already knew these people, so they trusted me. And I was able to go to them and sort of say, hey, I know you've got an idea of setting up an alcohol company. Let's do this together. And I think the thing that I did differently was, one, I was relatable. So I wasn't some giant guy in a suit just sitting there at the head of Coles being like, we're going to do this and you're going to get 5%. I was like, no, you're going to make this. I'm going to work with you to make sure this is all up there. It's your brand. Like, all I'm going to do is facilitate it to a point that, it represents you completely. Like, all the guys that we work with, they're super active. Like, people think that they're like white labeled and they're just the face of it. So there's other brands, I'm not going to mention them where they are. Like, they're not involved. But everybody that we work with, they legitimately work in the business. Like, when we have a management meeting or we have like a owners meeting, they're sitting in that meeting having those conversations. Like, I talk to Troy Candy fucking every day. Like, and it could be something as small as like label changes or as big as, flavor sort of sign-offs. Yeah. Like, so they're so heavily involved, our guys. So that's probably why we do it better. And hopefully, like, as time comes along, we'll see how it goes. And I think that we're looking like we're like here for the long time. But I think that the model of like paying someone to endorse your product is sort of starting to fall over because it's not as authentic enough, if that makes sense. Where with us, it's not the case. Like, our guys are like, they're fully involved. Like, every single one of our partners that we brought in strategically, they are our partners. They're not just the face of the brands, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's crazy. How'd you get into business with someone like Troy Candy?
I just knew him. Like, this is one of these things, man. Like, I kind of like, it's funny because I know you had Jaquil here, but like Jaquil for me is like, if anyone doesn't know, is Fino from like the rapper, I guess, or from Planet Vegeta, but he's like one of the most connected dudes I know in Sydney. So I feel like I'm like the Caucasian version of him. Yeah. Like, I just know everybody. Like, I've been putting the like grind on, like I worked in clubs all over fucking Australia. I've done stuff in New Zealand, and I would say I'm a top networker. So I'll fly in, like, even today, like, you're the third person I've met today. I've got another 3 people I'm going to meet again. So when I fly into a city, I just straight up just go hit up people, and they're people that I'll meet, man. I'll meet like guys that live in Bondi all the way as the dudes that live in Penrith to like
shout out Penny baby.
But I really, when I get there, I'll just go around, just talk, have conversations, and everyone's like, well, what about? And I'm like, well, nothing. I'm just going to catch up, but I don't know what they're doing. Yeah. They don't know what I'm doing, so let's connect the dots. And most times there's an opportunity arises. Like, I've got a meeting after this with the dude that I met last night, and not a meeting, a catch up, and we're just talking about where we could work together. It may happen, it may not, but that's just sort of what I've always done. I think I just love talking to people, and that's sort of given me that competitive advantage. But because of that, I've met all these people mostly before they blew up. So like, as they've kind of gone along this process, I've been the same person from the day they met me when they were like a no one per se, and then they become a someone. I still treat them exactly the same. So there's this trust that I built up with them. So when I go to do business with them, they're just like, okay, that's the same guy that I knew from years ago. I trust him. So I think that, again, like another competitive advantage is that what you see is what you get. Like, if you've been watching my shit, you fucking see the way I'm talking to you is exactly the way I talk on TikTok, exactly the way I talk when the cameras are off is exactly how I'm talking now. So I think that shines through, and it's sort of, it's an advantage that has worked really well for me now.
Yeah. You mentioned there you weren't like the Caucasian version of being a very connected man.
Yeah.
The one thing I noticed about you that I feel like you don't get credit for is your love for the culture, whether it's through brands, through the music. Where does the love come from? Is that something that like you grew up loving hip hop and that type of scene, or is it something that developed along the way?
It sort of sounds like a weird thing. So like growing up, right? So there's this whole thing where there's this, you're a Caucasian dude that works in music, so therefore, there's a certain stigma. But the reality for me is that when it came to guys like, the rappers and the hip hop dudes, especially in the Australian stuff, do I love hip hop? 100%. Yeah, like I was always listening to a lot of hip hop when I was younger. But I also listen to a lot of dance. I also listen to a lot of country music. I'm not like one guy who's just like, this is my genre. But the involvement with those, it was a people thing. Yeah, like so when I met all these rappers and stuff, their stories were more similar to my growing up story than the people that I worked with in the dance. Like a lot of the guys I worked with dance, they go into private schools or, they had like good upbringings and shit. I was growing up in like government housing, like single parents. Like my parents were drug and alcohol affected. Everyone I knew around me were fucking drug dealers or alcoholics. Like we grew up in, there was no one had any money. Like there was fear was the power of the area. So when I met these boys, even though they were like from, Samoa or New Zealand or Sudan or whatever, their story was so much more similar to mine than the people that I'd been working with. So to be honest, it was like a breath of fresh air. So all I wanted to do was like, I'm like, fuck, I've done this. Like I want to help these guys do this because I love like that grassroots. And that's music when you first starts, like from hip hop to dance to whatever genre, there's a grassroots part of it. And that part is addictive to me. So like you get these wins and it's like, you know, these opportunities and you get to see people react to them and like that energy, like I get to suck up and I rate it. But like doing the hip hop stuff, like I was super heavily involved in it for like 3-4 years, which I don't think a lot of people would know. And I had a lot to do with a lot of the big guys. And I'd say like when it came to all the Sydney boys, like they live around here, all of them, majority of them probably would have even known, but I was the one who brought them out to Melbourne. So like every show they did there, like I would have done every single person's first show that was big up here, like from Hefs to fucking, you know, like the list goes on, HP boys, all those sort of dudes. They all played with me first. I did those shows, yeah. Like, and I don't think people do know that. Like, and it is what it is. Like, I don't really care. Like, I don't need that credit but I did it because I believed in what they were doing and I fucking loved it. And it excited me. Yeah. Like, so I was sort of sucking energy off them and like that hype and that blow up. But at the same time, I was getting to watch them, you know, recreate their lives. But I definitely felt like I related more to those people than I did the people I'd worked with prior.
When you hosted the shows with Hefs, HP boys, did the police kind of weigh in with their opinion a fair bit?
No, like not in Melbourne.
So Victorian police don't care?
They didn't really know. Like 1-4, yeah. Like that. No, I didn't do that one. So that was actually my friends. They own a club called Billboard. And then they decided to not do it. Then I actually came in and I asked Spenny online. I was like, hey, bro, we'll support it. And he sort of was like messaging me back and was like, hey, yeah, we'll look into it, rah. But I don't really know where it went. I didn't get like any more contact, but I had just gone and we were going to take the risk when they got cancelled in Melbourne and put it in our show because the police were kind of like, they would have cracked it, but we didn't give a fuck, you know? So I was like, again, for the culture, whatever. But we did that stuff and we just, like the cops, I didn't think they even knew what was going on. So like we were sort of in a position where, you know, up here was in the news and you were copping it and it was going hard as and whatever online. But in Melbourne, they didn't even know what was happening until New South Wales told Victoria Police about 1-4. But other than that, like I've done Melbourne, NME, HP, Hooligan Hefs, Young and Lips, fucking, you name it, I've done them. Like down in Melbourne, like majority of them. Or like if not, I've been involved some way, which capacity, like be it Planet Vegeta or, you know, 046, like helping them book shows when they came in down or being supportive or whatever. And none of them really had any police backlash. Like the only ones that really I know of that have sparked ears is like Husky and you know, those guys. And I just think that, don't know why, because I think the cops can understand that a bit more. But I don't think that when it came to the Western Sydney stuff, like they wasn't really on the radar. So anyone that was under 1-4 was sort of safe.
What do you think of the New South Wales? Do you know the New South Wales police stance on 1-4?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
What do you think of it?
I just think it's ridiculous. Yeah, and so again, it comes from someone who comes from that way. It's like, you know, they're trying to like crush opportunity. You know, like it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like I was just literally talking about it this morning. It's like when you come from like a poor area, opportunity is hard to come by. Yeah, and so like for someone like myself who broke out of that, like I guess mold, and then now I'm hanging around with dudes who are millionaires who grew up in these fucking like these great suburbs and whatever. What they don't know that they've got, that they're so lucky to have, is they've got like role models who are like millionaires, or like or their uncle fucking owns like a food franchise and is made driving BMWs and shit. It's like when you grow up in like these other areas, like outer suburbs, it's like the people you're looking up to are the people who drug dealers, and they're not all got your uncle who went to prison who everyone respects because he's fucking scary. And like, so I don't understand when someone, like when it comes to music or anything, you know, sport or whatever, when someone has an opportunity to get out, regardless of the tone of the story or they're not, like why would you crush that? Like it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, you look at these areas, you go, well, they're crime driven or whatever it is, but it's like music, and you saw it. Like I was heavily involved with it, but all these guys blew up. A lot of these guys made money and get new opportunity, new conversations. They were talking to Sony fucking music, and like people, literally all of Australia's eyes were on Western Sydney for a bit. And like, what did that create? Like there was the correlations with Bam and all these dudes. He got more fan base. Yeah, and then like Penrith, the rugby club, like everyone was watching this thing. It was like watching a movie. And then you had the police going, no, you can't do that. It's like those guys blow up. We don't want them to tell their message, but like you look at YP, for example, like he went on to some of his stuff later on, like Heartless and all that sort of shit, and Welcome to Prison and blah, blah, blah. Some of the fucking best 1-4 songs I think there is. You're watching him mature, you know, like you're watching him mature in that journey, and then going on to like, now he's doing what he's doing, but it's like, you know, let them tell that story, blow up, and then mature, because people do, bro. Like people don't stay in that life forever, yeah. Like, and especially if they're making money and they're getting opportunity and stuff, it's like, where does that story go? They didn't squash them.
Yeah,
I don't believe it's you know where they thought it was going to go. Like if anything, they could have helped inspire others to not do what they were listening to at the start. Like yes, that attracted them in, but the message they could have told afterwards could have changed fucking a lot of people's lives. And I think that the New South Wales the New South Wales Police crushed that, and I think they did the opposite of what they were trying to achieve.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was listening to Luke Combs on Theo Von, came out 2 days ago. And Theo Von asked him the question, do you think, because Luke Combs blew up on Vine, out of all places, so that's a decade ago. Theo Von's like, do you think those fans from back then still listen to you? And Luke Combs was explaining the idea of you want your fans to grow with you, you don't want to try and attract, so if you're aiming for 20 to 24-year-olds, but you're doing that for the rest of your life, you're not going to have a loyal fan base.
Yep.
You're just targeting the same people over and over. Whereas if you have a loyal fan base, they're growing with you. You got to remember, they're humans as well. I think that's exactly the point with 1-4. They were maturing. You saw that with Heartless, Let's Ride, all those type of things. Welcome to Prison, and then the police just fucking
they squashed it. But and those guys are still continuing on and they're doing what they're doing. But it's it would have been able to watch those guys Saul, and they still are. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say they're not, but it's being able to watch those dudes, start telling messages about the things that they learn, and the life that they're living now and why it's better and rather than silencing them is just makes no fucking sense. Why cut down the statue in the middle of town when people need something to look up to?
Yeah, 110%. Now, whilst we're on live music, the Australian festival scene.
Yep.
It's been through a bit of a tumultuous time, for lack of a better term. Do you think it's in a healthy and good space, or do you think it's in a dire space?
So I would I'm agreeing to disagree with everybody on this thing. So I actually think it's probably, I'm not going to say it's the healthiest it's been, but it is the healthiest it's been. There was so many festivals over summer that sold out that no one's talking about. And so there's all different niches. There was you look at Listen Out, man, they broke records all across Australia. There was Spilt Milk that absolutely killed it, Post Malone and Dom Dollar. You've got Dom Dollar is another artist. He's a dance artist. He sold 55,000 tickets or 60,000 tickets in Melbourne this year, just gone.
Yeah, he's insane.
Yeah, but it's Fisher did 36,000 in Coolangatta. There's Taylor Swift, Blink-182. The list goes on of massive fucking names that were here. Who else was here? Robert Williams, Pink, whatever. And they were selling out show after show after show. People couldn't get tickets. And then Splendor and a couple of little, not little festivals, huge festivals falls over. But the difference is that what people don't know is that company that owns those festivals, the majority of those festivals, is a giant, massive corporation that does thousands of shows all across the world, and they're actually being risk adverse. Yeah, and if they were to actually run it through all the way to the end, maybe they don't lose money. They don't know. And I run festivals, and I can tell you right now, it's we had a really good, strong run towards the end, and we did well. But if I was to follow the model that they do, whereas the pre-sales weren't hot enough, we may have cancelled, but we didn't have the money to be able to cancel. Yeah, we couldn't go tear up $2 million to stop the risk of 8. Like they do, we had to continue on because losing 500 is better than losing 2 million. And so a big company like that, they're making a business decision and the media's jumped on it and hyped it up. I'm not saying that it's in a healthy position. There's probably a bit of a change of tides, but in saying that, there's a lot of festivals out there that are still doing really well, dude. A lot of the independent ones are killing it. Again, BTV, Spilt Milk, fucking CMC, which is a country music festival. Yeah, and
you went to that? Yeah.
I went, bro. It was fucking the best. Yeah. I went you can imagine, right? I'm a dance fucking promoter who runs Raves. Yeah. And then I've worked in Australian hip hop and whatnot. And I go to this country music thing. And I do like it, when I'm camping or whatever. And then I sort of went as a social experiment thinking I was going to have a laugh. And I come back out as a super fan. I fucking loved it. It was so good. People there were so nice.
Yeah. That's one thing at the country scene that's hit me. There's been a few country singers in here, bro. The nicest
Oh, really?
people. Yeah.
Yeah. Just in general, there's talk. Everyone wants to have a chat with you. And everyone's trying to help you out. It was wild. I've never been in a place where people were so nice and everyone's trying to accommodate and help one another. It was I'm going back. I'm literally going back this year.
When is it?
March next year, I think.
That'd be mad.
It's worth going.
Oliver Anthony at so you were there for that performance that went viral.
Yeah.
Fuck, that was mad.
Yeah, it was good. He was bubble bashing a bit, but people were cracking it over that. But he was good, man. That again. I've got heaps of cool moments of festivals. I've been to so many and whatnot, but when he did that mad song,
Rich Man, North of Richmond.
Yeah, fuck, it was a cracker.
Yeah,
I was day 3 in, so I was a bit tired. I literally heard that and I was I'm going to bed, but it was good, man. The music there was awesome, and the other thing too, I didn't realize, with rap and dance, there's millions of genres. So when I went there, I was cool. There's I like this artist or whatever. I didn't realize it's the same. There's all these different genres. So there was artists that I listened to. There's one called Outlaw. So it's outlaw country, and I fucking love it. It's so cool, bro. These guys, this guy called Brian Martin, and he sings about being a convict and all this shit. He's got this deep fucking drawl thing, and he's a Native American guy. And I'm this is sick. But I didn't know. So now I've gone and found all these other outlaw country artists, and I've just found a new genre that I love. Yeah, like so. I guess people shouldn't just knock things from the top because they, I don't like that artist. I don't like Morgan Wallen. It's like, there's so much deeper than that, but that's every genre.
Yeah. Where do you think the narrative comes? Because it seems to be like a popular thing about like the festival scene in Australia is on a downward trajectory. Where do you think that narrative comes from?
Just the media. Like I'm not saying it's a beat up. Like we always need more support and more help. Things are getting super, super expensive. Like it's harder now. Like when, when I was running festivals before, security was cheaper. Labor was cheaper, alcohol was cheaper. So things are getting more and more expensive. So I would say from the top part, the promoters and music festival owners, they're making less money. And then that's probably why they're making decisions to close them down or whatever, because at the end of the day, they are a commercial thing. But at the same time, it's like, I don't think it's as simple as just like, it's on the decline. Like I don't think that's the case. I think that it maybe needs to have a shake up or maybe looked at differently on like how things work and whatnot, or, some new guys come into the space to play or whatever. But I think the idea that festivals are dead is there's just no real basis to it. That's my gut, because it's like the last summer was literally the biggest music summer we've ever had since I've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah. What do you think about the nightclub scene?
Nightclubs are fucked. That's legit. Like there's a thing yesterday. I literally did a video yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a statistic that I kind of not made up. I fucking found out, but there was 500 clubs in 2022 in Australia. And there's now 355. So that's it's like a decrease of like...
It's like 25%, huh?
Yeah, 25%. So, but what people don't know, which makes it worse, and I do because I'm always in interstate going and visiting clubs and whatnot, is that those 355 clubs that were running maybe at 90 to 100% capacity 2022 are now running at like 60%. So it's like, it's very rare these days that you go to a club that's fucking packed. Like, and I'm in clubs still all the time. Like I'm traveling, like I was at Ivy last night and it was still pretty busy, I'm not going to lie, but there's...
Yeah, but Ivy Thursdays is
it's an institution,
folklore,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so that's an institution. But a lot of places I go to that I was at last year where there was like 800 people, there's now 400. So it's on a rapid decline. And also on top of that, like government want more money. So there's a thing called APRA. Do you know what APRA is?
No.
So you got to pay money to play music. So that's going up. Then alcohol tax is going up. Licensing's going up. Insurance is like gone up by 10x. Like we used to pay like 10, 20, 15 grand for insurance, and now it's like 100. So security guards have gone up too. So like they used to again pay them like 30, say, I don't know, $8, and now you got to pay them $78.
An hour?
Yeah. So it's like regulation came in, and it's not on the insurance guys. It's just like, that's what you have to pay them. It's new pay rates for security guards.
$78 an hour?
Yeah. So
fuck.
It was like, well, they don't get paid that, the guards, but it's like they have to be, it's like how it works out or whatever it is, but don't hold me to that exact number.
Yeah.
Like,
but still, that's crazy.
It almost doubled like when it happened. And this was like sort of 2021 maybe. And then maybe it's just Victoria. I'm not sure if it's Australia wide, but that was like our bill went from like $7,000 a night to like 12, like straight away. So that was a new cost that we didn't have before, and we were declining in numbers, not inclining. Yeah, like so I was like, that's got to come from somewhere. And then second to that, you've got all these different factors that are making it more and more expensive. So as a consumer, you're coming in and it's costing you $15 for a fucking can of 196, or probably even $16. And it's like, I get why they're like, well, I don't want to go. It's too expensive. Yeah. But at the same time, it's not the club owners doing it. Like everyone thinks we're these greedy dogs that are just putting the money in our pocket. But it's like, we're not making any money, man. Like it's very, very hard to make money as a club owner. Like that's why I don't do it anymore. Yeah. And people are like, bro, what's your advice? I get hit up all the time. They're like, I want to own a club. I want to run a club. And I'm like, bro, there's better ways to make money. To lose money. I'm like, you got to love it to do it. If you hate money, then get one. Yeah. And like, but if you want to make fucking drive around Ferraris and shit, there's better ways to do that. Start up an e-commerce business or some shit like that. So, but I'm a passionate music guy, obviously, like hence why, like even just as you talked about, I've worked in so many different genres and shit. So music is really my, like what powers me. Money is a secondary thing to me. I'm in a good position now where I'm able to do music, not for full time, because for like 16 years, music was what paid my bills and bought my house and did all that sort of shit, which is fucking awesome, right? Like it's insane. Yeah. But now I don't have to rely on that because I've got the alcohol company and different bits and pieces that are sort of funding my life. So when I go do music stuff, it's really, really pure because I'm doing it for fun. Like that's why I did that free rave. I don't know if you saw it down in Melbourne. Yeah. And I did it for free and it cost me $3,000. So I literally threw a party for no reason. I just did it for the culture because I want to. Yeah, like so that's what's been able to change. So it's been fucking awesome to be able to do that. And then eventually I probably will go back to events and stuff, but hopefully it's when I've sold my business for millions of dollars and I don't need to work anymore sort of thing. So it's weird to think that my plan is to sell my business for millions so I can work back in music and not worry about making money. Like, but yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, that's mad. But speaking of music, hip hop, I've had a lot of hip hop guests on here. You managed Melbourne.
Yep.
And you managed AMU.
Yep.
Was there anyone else on your roster?
I've just dealt with a lot of people. So like, so I don't traditionally always take people on as sort of management, but I've done a lot with like New Wave early days. Like I spent a lot of time with those boys. The list, there's a massive list. I probably won't go into it in too much detail, but heaps of dudes I've helped. Like there's a guy at the moment called Satan that I'm sort of chopping out and helping out a little bit. Another guy called Face 685 that I sort of help out with, or have, I should say. Even like early days with like the 046 boys, like when they had a manager that I used to sort of kind of mentor a little bit, not them directly, but I was sort of helping them. So anyone really, like anyone that sort of reached out and sort of said, hey, can you give me a hand? If I believed in the music school, I've helped, yeah. Like I might have connected them to a label or connect them to a venue to do a show or put them on a support or whatever. But I've worked with a lot of artists. But those two are the two that I really took under my wing.
So split questions. Melbourne was never short of drama back in the day. Completely different man now. But back in the day when I first heard of Melbourne, never short of drama or calling someone out. The first rapper that I actually worked with was CG Fez.
Yep.
Him and Melbourne were going tit for tat for a bit back in the OG days when like Lex was rapping. Yeah. And
it was fuck, I just blanked his name now. The one that got Lazy J.
Yeah.
So there was Lazy J was involved. Amma was involved with it too, but yeah.
Yeah. So Melbourne, what was it like managing him back then? And then also with Amu, were you around when he released My Team?
So I was not long after. So I sort of took him under my wing. But no, so he put that out before I started taking care of him.
So double question. What was it like managing Melbourne when he was at the peak of his powers, ruffling feathers? And then also, what was it like managing Amu, who had, relative to Australian hip-hop scene, like one of the biggest hits we had in recent times?
Yep. So Melbourne, I was about to say his real name, Melbourne, he is one of the most creative and best rapper people I've ever met in my life. He's a fucking pleasure to be around, and I don't really get where the hate comes from, man. Like he'd be in my top 5 people I've ever met, right?
I think it's just because he used to call people out.
I get it, but it's like a fucking show, That's what I understand. Like it actually bleeds down to where people are like the shit he gets, man, the hate he cops. I don't know how he deals with it, but it's like they're out to get him because he rapped an American accent, one, which so did everybody. Like literally the list is fucking massive of people who did it. But for whatever reason, he's the poster boy of it. And then second to that, he called some people out in some fake YouTube beef. Yeah, and like those dudes are all fucking friends, man. Like he used to talk to Lazy J on the phone, and like Amal and him, obviously they work together now. From my understanding, he's friends with CG Fez. Like none of it was real, and that people like believed it was, and they're still kind of holding it on 10 years later. But working with him is polarizing in the sense that what you see is what you get with him in a sense, but he doesn't really give a fuck. He's got that kind of like, I'm doing what I'm doing and no one's getting in the way. But it comes with drama. Yeah. Like we've had issues with all kinds of stuff where we've had at shows where there's been threats of fucking violence, like serious violence. And we've had to like combat that. Yeah. And then we've had other stuff on the other spectrum where they've been involved in violent incidents themselves, those boys. And that's one thing that's kind of topical, but a lot of people do this thing where they're like, oh, they're not real G's. I've fucking traveled the world with those boys, man. The trouble they get in is fucked. Like, I've dealt with all these other artists and I get, they're like, oh, that boy's real, they're real. Like, I don't know how people have this idea that those guys aren't real because they were a fucking handful to deal with because they were always in trouble. So I don't know where that narrative came from, but they're a hectic group of dudes, but in saying that, I loved them, and they were like family to me. And I was like, I'd go to their house, dude. I was the first to sit down, and I would eat. I'd take my kids there, yeah. And like we'd go to Melbourne's joint, and like I'm close with his brother Ryan King and all his family, and they'd feed me, and I could not. They were so amazing to me, and I really felt as though they were family to me. And so I guess when the challenges came, like when we had those issues with like gang stuff or jail or there were serious fucking outside issues that were kind of interrupting the music and stuff, I probably let it go further than I would have with someone else because I felt so emotionally close to those guys. Like I still do. I love them. Yeah, like I literally do. There was one point where we sort of did have a conversation where I said, look, dude, I don't know if I can keep doing this because there was just too much problems. And I won't go into it because that's his own personal story to tell, but it was getting pretty fucking hairy and I felt as though I was probably going to put myself into danger. And then credit to him, he started to change his life. Yeah, like, and I don't think it was just solely to do with me, but I think that a small part did because I was a positive role model in his life and a lot of other people probably weren't. There was a lot of negative around him. And I think he saw that maybe like I might leave, like it was actually like a true thing. And but yeah, like the guy, I couldn't talk more highly about him. He's a really close friend to me, and I haven't seen those guys properly because I've been busy doing all this shit at the moment, but I fucking miss him. And then on the other spectrum, Amul, bro, he's a fucking gentleman. they're both super talented. The reason why I got around them so much is I generally believe that they're two of the best rappers in Australia, if not like, you know, in the whole industry and scene. But Amul was amazing, super talented guy. Again, just fucking humble, awesome to be around. He's like, I would say that he's like very educated and sort of wise for his age.
How old is he, you reckon?
He's probably 30 now, I reckon. He's not old. But
Younger than I thought.
But he's very, and he just like, his view on life is so positive and it's kind of polarizing in a sense, you know, like, so Ronnie's kind of always going through the wash a little bit and he's like kind of gets up and then he like, things happen in his life. So like, people think he just drops off, but it's like, he's gone to jail or fucking, you know, something really serious has happened and he disappears because of personal stuff. So it's like not to do with, he doesn't choose. He's sort of been unlucky a little bit because he sort of, every time he gets on the high rise and it sort of seems like it's about to blow up, then something goes wrong. Yeah. So, and then on Amul was he's the complete opposite. Yeah. And so for him, he's consistent, he's a workhorse, he's in and out, he's doing whatever he does. And he's just, but man, when we used to hang out like us three, it was the best. And that's what I mean, it's so weird because people don't know, like they see my TikTok stuff, but they don't know how heavily involved I was in the Oz hip hop stuff. I was flying around the country with these guys. We were doing shows all over the place and I was running shows down in Melbourne. I was spending so much time with them and it was fucking some of the best times of my life. I loved it.
Yeah, that's mad, eh? Melbourne would have been.
He was like, yeah, he was a headache, but he was like, at the same time, the upside was better than the downside at most times, but yeah.
Was your story as it relates to the one in New Zealand when you were managing Melbourne, you told it on
TikTok, yeah, that was my first one that blew up.
And one of the podcasts I listened to that you were on,
Puppetry Yarns?
Yeah. Is that your most etched story within like the hip hop side of your life?
That's probably one of the craziest stories I've ever had in my whole fucking life. Yeah, and like where in short, I won't go into it too much, but basically, I put a show in a rival bikie group area in New Zealand without knowing in Auckland. And I basically created a gang, like a massive gang fucking fight. I wouldn't say a war, but like a massive fight. And then the police basically forced me to take care of it because I was the promoter of the show. So I had to like navigate how to deal with these two rival gangs and the New Zealand police to kind of de-escalate the situation as a guy who's not had anything to do with this stuff. And I was like, again, probably one of two Caucasians that involved in this whole thing. So it was fucking scary. It was wild, man.
Because you were in one of the clubhouses at some point, weren't you?
Accidentally, yeah.
That's crazy, bro.
I didn't know. I forgot that I told that story. That was it. Yeah. So I went. It was. I thought it was a studio, and I had to go pick up $6,000 cash. And I didn't know it was cash, but I went in there, and then I kind of quickly realized that I was in some floor. Yeah, like basically. But the guys were so fucking nice. Like I was shitting myself. It's kind of funny. So I was in there, and then they're like, "Yeah, go into this little room on the side," and I was like, "Oh." I didn't want to. So I kept saying I was hungry and I was like, oh, I've got to get eat quickly and I'll come back. So I'm trying to bail. And then eventually I had no choice. But I thought I was going to die. Like I'm not joking. So I sort of went into that room and I sat down and this big guy, man, he was like fucking 6'7". He was like a moldy dude, but he had like red hair. And he sat down and I was like, okay, I'm about to die. And he was literally like, you own clubs? I was like, yeah. He's like, what speed rails do you do? How do you do your bookings? He just wanted to have a chat with me. Yeah. And I was like, but I got out of there. It was fucking, that was really nice, dude. Those guys end up helping us out later down the track. And it was a unique situation. But in saying that, I have been involved in stuff where we've had serious threats of violence. Like people are saying, like, if this person plays, they're going to get shot. Or almost every time you do that sort of stuff, like a lot of it would be like, someone calls up and it sort of like creates like a buzz. Like it got to a point, that's where I got in that situation in New Zealand because it was happening so often that I started to ignore it. So every time I'd run a show, they'd be like, oh, this gang says that if this group comes, this group comes, that they're going to get shot. So then you have to like watch the fucking doors and figure out how you're going to get him in. And it's like, you have to take it serious. But basically I'd done 20 shows and nothing had happened. Yeah. So I started to not be like, no, it's just people talking shit.
Empty threats, yeah.
So then when I got to New Zealand, even though I'd heard a little bit of that stuff kind of buzzing around, like, you know, they can't play or do this or be careful, I just ignored it because I just was like, I've heard this before, yeah. And like I've lost enough sleep, like thinking that someone's gonna get shot or whatever. But there was times, man, when doing that sort of stuff where we couldn't tell even the security guards what time the act was coming, yeah. And we had to get like a back entrance and talk to the venues about how they're gonna get in, like. So I was like, remember parking my car and actually fucking wigging out, like who was watching me when I was going to the venues and stuff at the peak of that stuff. And again, I'm lucky that nothing that like ever happened, but for a while, that was my life. And that, again, it goes back to the passion of my music, bro. Like I love the music so much that I was willing to literally risk those situations for the culture.
Yeah, that's right. As it pertains to the storytelling, that you're in a good position because you've lived a life. Like you're at an age where the youth, like, and you've just done some crazy shit, right? So the storytelling recently, you started talking on TikTok, call it 6 months ago, maybe? Not even, bro.
I started in Feb, so what's that? Feb, March, April, May, like literally 4 months now.
Right. So you've gone from, like, I kind of knew of, right? Like I'd seen, bro, I saw you in a photo with Hefs maybe back in the day.
Yeah. I did stuff with everybody. Like at some point.
Like for me, but being part of the scene, I recognize the face. But you've gone from relatively, like, you know famous people, but you know them from behind the scenes. Yeah. So you know what fame or, relative fame is within a scene. And then you start talking on TikTok. You do, is it 30 million you've done so far?
It's like, I'll be over that now, I think.
Yeah.
So that's just the TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So I'm pretty big on, I
watch them.
Yeah, I almost do like 500,000 on YouTube a month, yeah.
And you've gone from like knowing what it's like but not experiencing it to now experiencing it. Now I'll tell you how I can relate. So I have a thing called Sunday League. Like, so it's just like with football on a Sunday. It's just like pub football, really.
Yeah.
But we film it. I cut it up, edit it, do voiceovers. Like film. We're the only blokes in the country doing it. Like some of the videos, like one of our reels did like 5.7 million.
Yeah,
recently.
nice.
And then on YouTube we do like 80K some episodes. I say we, it's just me. But but the boys are in the video and they make it a bit better. But so as it pertains to any football, anything related to football, if I go to a game, I have people coming up to me.
Yep.
Normal life, maybe someone was like, go, Sunday League kid. That's what, like, if I hear Sunday League, I know someone's talking to me. But for me, bro, it's been fucking weird because I still get in my high vis every morning. And I can understand for someone like you who's done it at a much wider and bigger scale, it's probably a bit like etch, would you say? Like in terms of where you're getting noticed and how often you're getting noticed?
It's fucking strange. Like there's two parts to it. One is I didn't realize how little I didn't realize how little I don't leave my community. Yeah. So like I'm sort of like with my club friends or my work friends, my office or my home so much. And the only reason I notice that now is that I live in this world where they don't give a fuck about me because they see me all the time. And then I'll leave to do something mundane, like go to the shops to buy USB, and I'll get stopped like 5 times. Yeah, and so then I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot this is now what's happening. So it is weird, and I'm not gonna lie to you, like it's been times where I've been thinking like, well, do I like this? You know, because it's so new to me, and it's like it has been relatively aggressive, and it's fucking awesome. Don't get me wrong, people come up and they want to talk to me. But because my content's so long, dude, it's like 10, 15 minutes or like hours.
They feel like they know you.
Yeah, so I see their face. They're like, oh, and then when they talk to me, they're like, they think they know me. And it's not uncomfortable, it's a bit strange. And it's just, I just don't know. But I have, you're right. Like when I'm with all the guys, the rappers or the DJs or whatever, the amount of photos I've taken for people with them is like, I'm used to that. But now being at the other end of the camera, it's so cool. But at the same time, it's very fucking odd. So I'm early stages. So I don't really fully know how I am with it. I love when people come up and talk to me. I don't really like when people look at me, if that makes sense. So, and again, I grew up in a rough area. So when someone's staring at me when I'm buying a burrito, I think they're trying to punch on with me. And I have to like now sit back and go, okay, no, they recognize me, or they might come up and say hello, but it's all love. Like literally everyone comes up and gives me love, but it's fucking odd. Like last night, dude, I was at some like 7-Eleven and I stood up and I was buying like energy drink for the morning and fucking C's. And basically there was this microphone and it's like, that's Danny Grant. And I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I haven't even got my card out. Like, how do you know that? And the dude's like, I'm streaming. Someone must have recognized you on their streaming thing and just yelled out my name. And I'm like, what?
What's he streaming to?
He had like a camera streaming just like him working basically in the shop. So he was like on Kick, he said. And then when it came on, people just started talking to me, the phone. But obviously, normally it wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But it was doing it to me because they recognized me on the stream. And I was like, how does this guy know my name?
That's so
because I thought it was like a card or it scanned my face or some shit.
Yeah.
And then that was a wig out. So I've had that heaps. But the thing too for me, which is odd, is that I don't have like say you got a football audience or even like Troy's got a car audience or whatever. my audience is like 0 to like fucking 55. Like, 0 is probably an exaggeration.
Yeah, it'd be hard to
18,
define yours, bro.
So
It'd be
I don't know.
hard.
So when I see someone look at me, I'm not like, oh, that's a fan of mine, because effectively anyone who watches my shit, it could be hip hop fan, dance fan. It could be someone who's been to a nightclub. I do mental health stuff before, so it could be someone that's heard like a mental health stuff. I just do crazy stories about like getting lost in the bush and shit. Like that was one I did the other day. It did hundreds of thousands of views. So it could be a country guy who's gone full driving. So I live a pretty vast, different life. So I don't know when someone comes up to me, if like I can't pick it. Like I've had old men, I've had people from every single culture, bro. Like I wasn't, like there's so many different stories, but it's like I've had ladies come up that are like, could be my mum's age, fucking walk up to me and basically like as I'm eating and come up and tell me the story about their sons and stuff. So that is being different. But yeah, as I said, like it's humbling. It's awesome, but at the same time, it's very fucking odd. Like I'm sort of thinking to myself, I said to my missus, I'm like, did I die at Christmas or something?
Yeah.
Like, is this real life? Yeah. And so, but it's cool, but I just don't know where it goes. But I love creating.
Yeah.
So being able to create, like even when I use those artists and I was like working with them or running clubs or whatever, like what people don't know is I'm just creating. I'm creating a space. I'm creating a musician. I'm creating a brand. I'm creating with my alcohol stuff. I'm creating. And like, so now I'm creating, but I'm just, the only difference is now that my face is in it. But I love creating. Like if I could just do creating all day, every day, bro, I fucking wouldn't. If I end up being the entertainment, then it is what it is. Yeah. But we'll see where it goes from there. Like I know that the more conversation and more opportunity that come my way, this is only going to help them. Yeah. Like, so that's why I'm sort of allowing it to happen.
Yeah. You said you got lost in the bush. I grew up in the Blue Mountains. So I used to go all the time, my boys, get on a bike, go places we shouldn't have been going. But to me, I don't understand. Bro, this sounds so fucking naive and stupid to say out loud. I sometimes don't get how people get lost in the bush because I spent so much time in it. I know what to look for. Like,
I was the same, man, because I grew up in the bush too. And I used to be the same until I got lost in the bush.
How the fuck did you get lost in the bush?
So,
where as well?
So what happened was there was like, I was in Victoria.
Yeah.
And then there was a hill and it's dumb as, but I was like, well, let's walk to the top of this hill. And as we walked to the top of this hill, it was like hairy as, right? So as in like priggles and shit.
Yeah.
So we got up to the top of this hill and then I was like, oh, fuck going back down there again. Cause like we were covered in cuts and shit and there was like a river and stuff. I was like, that was too hectic. So like, let's go back down the side of it and we'll just track around. And then we're like, yeah, sweet. So we sort of like got down to the bottom of it, and then there was a sign that said where, and I knew that we needed to be near a where. But so I just was like, well, it must be this one. So we sort of, I must loop back around, or maybe like, road less traveled. So we sort of started to follow it, and then we're just going away, and then I was like, where the fuck? You're up, bro.
Sorry, bro.
Yeah, so we sort of started to follow it along this track. And then like an hour in, I realized like, we're not going to the where that I thought. I actually got to the where and I'm like, this is not the fucking one we're looking for. And then we turned back around. I'm like, easy, we'll just go back and find that hill. But we couldn't find that hill because we thought we were on the right trajectory. If that makes sense. Yeah. So then I didn't know where to go. And then we just ended up going down like the same path backwards. And then I don't know what happened, man. Like got disorientated and then we're just like, fuck it. I'm pretty sure it's that way. So we started cutting through goat tracks, which is probably the opposite of what you should do. And then I was like, how the fuck do we get back to the road we were on? And then we're just like full blown lost. But funnily enough, man, a guy was in the bush. Did you hear the story?
Nah, I'd seen it pop up yesterday.
Bro, so we were walking through these goat tracks and we saw a fire and we're like, fuck, let's just go and try and find people. So I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm full lost. Don't even know like north, south, east, west. Have no idea where I am. And I see like smoke and I start following it. We get there and there's like a tent with a fire and this guy's got all this stuff hanging around. And we're like, excuse me. And this guy pops out and he's like been living in the bush for 6 months. And he's like a bush hobo or fucking a hermit or whatever. And then he's like, what's happening? He seemed pretty chill to be fair, but he was like dreadlocks and, like a bit of a strange cat. And then we're like, we're lost. We don't know how to go home. Like, rah. Like, can you take us to we need to go, whatever. Because look, I knew where I needed to be, but I didn't know how to get there. And then he's like, yeah. And this is like on dust. So he just sort of tracked us through all these goat tracks and then took us to the fence that we needed to be on. So we jumped over and we got there. It was like SES and shit there. Like ready to look for us because I was only like 15 or 14 or some shit. Yeah. And then he bailed. And then I was telling my family, like, we found this guy in the bush and he took us whatever. And they're like, no way, that's true. And the SES and stuff were like, no, there's like heaps of hermits that live in the bush. And it's like, they're off grid, just like living there. And they're like, we catch them, we kick them out. But there's heaps of them. They like live through that whole sort of, it's called high country where we live, but it's fucking impossible to find them. Like if they actually can be self-sufficient, like it'd be very, very difficult to find you.
Fucking hell.
Dude, I'll tell you this one thing. It's off topic, guys, but there's a guy called the Button Man in Victoria, and he basically is this creepy entity who wanders around the high country, and he makes like buttons and like jewelry and shit from like bones and antlers and stuff. This is a legit thing, man. And what he's famous for is like he goes into people's camps and like creeps them out because he just lives in like off the grid sort of for months at a time in the bush. And there's this famous story. It was true or not, I don't know, but it's cool yarn. He basically went into someone's. He was like, kind of like doing creepy shit to this dude that was at camping. He was a photographer, like a bird photographer. Yeah. And then the guy had an altercation with him, whatever. Then he went to sleep, woke up, went back home, and when he put his SD card in, there was photos of the bushman while he was taking photos of him sleeping with his camera inside the bush in the high country.
What the
and I'm like, there's a couple heaps of stories of like weird shit like that, but he's like a famous one, but there's apparently heaps of them in there.
Yeah, right. That's weird. We don't have that type of folklore, hey.
But this is not folklore. This guy exists. Like people got photos of him and shit. But yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have anything like that because the mountains are so steep.
Yeah, okay.
Because everyone lives on basically the ridge is where everyone lives, even though we have highways and whatnot. But you can understand, like valleys are on both sides, but the valleys are so deep, and like one side of the mountains takes you all the way out past like Warragamba.
Yep.
And like if you get lost in there, but
just panthers.
Yeah. Do you know that yarn?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So there's the panther.
Tigers.
There's a few, but there was the panther. It flared up the other year. So we have a thing called Flat Rock up in Wentworth Falls, and it's this like long flat rock. You would have known people that have taken photos there. It's like famous stop. But so you drive along a long road, and then you chuck a right-hand turn down a street, and there's houses there, blah, blah, blah. And then you pull into the car park at the end of this street. But those houses that run along the road you're initially on, they back onto the bush that's behind Flat Rock itself, if that makes sense. Anyway, this person a few years ago took a photo, sent it into 9 News of this black cat. And it's like, it's big, but people locally knew what it was. So one of the guys that lives near Flat Rock, he has a black cat. And as it was getting old, it just got fucking fat. And they've taken a photo from here, and apparently 9 News paid these people for it.
Yeah.
Of this fucking fat domestic cat, and they thought it was the panther. And they genuinely thought like the panther had mounted it.
Like, so I've got mates who, and like I trust them. Like I'm talking like, they're not liars who reckon they've seen them.
Yeah, well, one of my best mates, Dom, shout out Baby D, his uncle vouches that he saw it in Glenbrook.
So one of my best friend's brother and his dad, who are like the most honest fucking stand-up guys I know, they were bakers, so they used to drive at 3 o'clock in the morning. Back where I grew up was a place called Broadford. And they both swear black and blue that they saw fucking panthers on the road back into the city, like the back way. And they're like, the way the tails were fat as and hanging off them. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can only believe what these guys, I believe 100% what they say. And they won't even say it publicly. Like, if I ask them to do it on the phone, I'm doing it to them now. Sorry, boys. But they won't, because they don't want to be ridiculed. Yeah,
so
like,
how's the story of panthers down in Vic then?
Oh, everywhere. There's heaps of them. There's like Otways. There's where I grew up. There's a lot of them. Gippsland. There's shit. Like I know like 5-10 people, bro, that reckon they've seen them.
But what's the original yarn from panthers being in Victoria?
So there was like a farm in the Dannyrants that there's 2 yarns, but the farm in the Dannyrants, which is actually legit. There was like a zoo up there.
Yeah.
And then when it got shut down, because it used to be like those little like kind of pop-up zoos that weren't like regulated back, and that's true. And the yarn is that they let them go. So that's that one. And then the second one is that the army was there or some shit, and then they let some black panthers go. But mostly it's the zoo thing. Like, but the zoos were around. There was people that had tigers and stuff like that.
Yeah. See, ours is like you go up towards Warragamba. So Nepean River's like 5 minutes that way. If you follow the river all the way up, you end up at a place called Warragamba or Silverdale. Warragamba Dam is what it's known for.
Yep.
And in Silverdale, you're driving through, and there's still like cars from the circus that used to be in there, and that's where they think the panther got out from, and that's where the Blue Mountains panther yarn comes from.
Yeah, every time I'm like out that way, I'm like, fuck, I hope I see one, but not yet.
It's a fascinating yarn. Now, on the topic of storytelling, you've told so many on TikTok. But I want to tell you one of mine, because the question I have for you is there any etched stories you haven't told yet that you'd be happy to share?
We used to go to Gold Coast every year for schoolies. We would take like a string of DJs. So there'd be like 15, 12 to 20 DJs would come. And it was almost like a reward sort of for being a part of our events all year. Yeah. And like they were wild times, bro. Like because we had fucking a lot of cash back then. And like there was one time, this is actually a pretty crazy story I haven't told. We had made $100K. So $100,000 between like myself and my partners. And we had to transfer it from Gold Coast in cash down to Melbourne. So we're splitting it up in pillowcases and into like suitcases and all this shit. So we're basically smuggling $100,000 back to Melbourne. Just joking, ATO.
Entertainment purposes.
I made that up.
Yeah.
But we're doing that. But we used to stay in these like mansions. Like we'd like get massive mansions. We'd have all these artists at them. And you can imagine there's like 15 young boys there, and we used to like have these parties and stuff. And I remember like times when they had like, we hired scooters and people doing burnouts and laps around the house and shit like that. And then we got booted from that house. And then we just, instead of like punishing anybody, we just paid $7,000 for a penthouse in Q1 and just continued the party. And like, we'd have randoms come through, like all different club owners and stuff. I remember someone shat in the bath. Like, we're like, who the fuck shat in the bath? And no one ever owned up to it, bro. Like, but they were wild. Like, there was times when, you know, you thought that the money was never going to stop. So like we would just like go on those trips and shit and just blow bulk cash because we were making it. And then over time we went from making $100,000 to losing 30,000. You know, like times change and stuff. But they're pretty crazy stories that I haven't told because I can't turn them into like a fucking story arc. If that makes sense. So there's probably hundreds of like little stories that are like 1 second versions, but they're just not like, I can't tell them for 10 minutes. If that makes sense. I'm like, how do I do this? Like, yeah, like I fucking went to Taiwan and played for like Taiwan gangsters, but I just can't figure out how to make a story of it. Yeah, and like had all that sort of stuff, like where we smuggled $100K back into Victoria, or I've ran an island party, built a like an island party in the middle of fucking Gold Coast, and like, but I can't turn it into like a story arc. And I ran a 3,000 person in a castle in Victoria, like out of Ballarat, and I lived in this castle for 5 days and didn't leave it, and it was like wild as fuck, but I just can't turn it into a story arc. Yeah? And so there's so many stories, bro. Like people are like, how do you have all these stories? But I'm like, there's so many stories that don't have a beginning and an end. So the ones I tell are just ones that have like a beginning and an end, and I with a hook. And like I've got so many better stories that don't have hooks, but I can't tell them.
Yeah, articulate them. Yeah, it's crazy to me.
And the other one, which I know I touched on before we started, but I'm like, there's so many I can't tell because like my personal safety would be at risk. Yeah, and so there's so many stories like I'll sort of say, and then I'm like, oh no, I can't say that. Yeah, and like, I can't mention that person. There's a fucking plethora of them too. Yeah, and like I wish I could do like an uncut one, but even then I'd be too scared because like people that I'm talking about, like, you know, still out and about or whatever, or it might incriminate someone, it might incriminate myself even. So there's all this stuff that I can't tell that are fucking hilarious stories, but just like the repercussions would be like I'd go to jail or I'd get killed.
Have you had, besides the Bikie incident NZ, is there any other moments of where you've been like, fuck, I could die here?
Oh, no, not that I could die, but I've been in situations where I'm like, these are hairy as fuck. Yeah, and like there was one that I had where...
What goes through your head when you're in... So I've been in like a situation before where like, I was driving, but there was a flash where I'm like, fuck, could die here.
I've had that in like non-club world like 10 times, bro. Like I'm a risk guy. Like I love risk. Yeah. So I've like almost died. I paddled out shark bait in South Australia, and it capsized at nighttime, and I got stuck in the fucking wire and it pulled down, and I thought I was going to die. And I had that adrenaline rush where I'm like, I'm going to die here because I couldn't kick my legs and I was like sinking in the water.
Wait, what happened?
This is like one of like 5, which is fucked. Go. So you're about to cop a couple.
Are you in Glenelg here?
No. So I'm in a place called Raves in South Australia. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to paddle out this shark bait because I want to catch sharks, right? Because like my actual personal life is wild, bro. Like I've like dived around the world, snowboarded around the world. I've fucking, you name a crazy thing. Like I actually don't even really have a bucket list because I've done that much shit. But again, there's no story arc to it. But so I'm out there and I want to catch like a shark, like a baby great white or some shit, right? So I'm out there and I'm fucking, it's on dusk and I'm trying to paddle out and the waves are too big for me to get out there. So I keep paddling and eventually I break through and I get there and I get off the back and I'm probably like 200-300 meters offshore. It was like far as out and the sun's coming down and I'm playing with this bait. It's like this big, like shark bait. And then I'm sort of mucking around with it and it got caught in the net at the back of my kayak. Yeah. And as I did that, I wasn't looking. And this like rogue fucking giant wave came up. So by the time I saw it, it was too late and I just capsized off the back of it. And then because that happened, like I was getting tangled in the boat and then the wire. So I was attached to the boat, the line, and then like the sinker, and it was all tangled over my body. So I couldn't fucking break out of it. And I was sort of being dunged under the water and I could feel myself sinking. And I was like, I'm going to die. Like, and what I had to do was I just had to basically say, if you don't calm the fuck down right now, you're going to die. So you have to figure out the situation. So I sort of like didn't take a breath because I was underwater, but I had to figure it out. And then I kind of gradually got one leg out, then the other one out, and I came up and I was like, what the fuck? And it took like 40 minutes for me to get back in. And the boat was just like tipped over like that. I was like kicking it into shore. And like my sister and like friends of mine were at the beach and they thought I was dead because all they saw was the boat upside down. And they couldn't find me because it was pitch black and they had torch and like, Daddy, oh, but I couldn't hear it because of the wind. Yeah. And everyone thought I was dead. And when I got back, I was like, fuck. But there's another one, man, where I fell out of a car with a shotgun. And shouldn't have been holding a shotgun. And I was hanging at the back of a ute with a shotgun and we were hunting, like, because I grew up in the country. And my mate threw a fox and he was like, womp, bang, just put the accelerator on. And so I had a loaded shotgun and my mate was next to me. And I fell out of the car like 20 kilometers and smashed me out. I don't remember any of it. I knocked him out and he had a loaded shotgun. And we both fell out of the car like at 20 kilometers with loaded shotguns. Thank fuck it didn't go off. He was all right. Like I broke the light, whatever. I knocked myself out cold. I don't remember like 10 hours. Yeah, like I could keep going on, man. Like I've got so many stories where I've almost died that aren't related to club stuff. But yeah. But on the other spectrum, I've had hairy situations where the way I get through it is I just like have to be calm. Like I'm always like, oh, you're in this situation where you might die again. I'm like, be calm, be calm, be calm, be calm, be calm. Because like, and then like afterwards, I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? Like this giant rush, you know? But yeah, like the list I split my kidney another time. Like I robbed a. This is so fucked. I'm giving you all this juicy shit. But when I was young, I shouldn't admit this, but when I was young and I did like a hustle. But we used to like knock over sporting places and steal their booze. I regret it. I'm just saying again and again, please. I think it's been over 10 years, so it's all good. Yeah. And then we'd sell it at school and stuff. Like that was like one of the hustles I had when I was a kid because again, I had no money, whatever. So we must have done something like knocked something over. And then I was, we were just drinking like Sambuca, just fucking horrible as alcohol, Kahlua or whatever. And then there was like a weir. Do you know what a weir is? Like on a river? Yeah, so I was on a weir on a river.
They're etch if you get caught in them, eh?
So I was on that. It was a dry one. And it was probably like 2.5 meters high. So we're camping because I'm like 14 or something stupid like that. We're camping in the middle of nowhere, just getting pissed, doing whatever you do. Like, and then I fucking was backing up because I was hammered, and I didn't know that the wall was there. And I fell off the weir, man, and I landed on these sharp rocks, and I split my kidney. And then I fell asleep and I almost bled to death. And I had to walk like 3 kilometers back to my house, and I was like coughing up blood and shit. And then I pissed blood, and then I went to sleep. My mum gave me like a Valium or some shit, and I passed out. Woke up and then I went straight to the hospital and then I had to go to Epping, whatever. And they reckon if I had like not gone in 3 or 4 hours beforehand, I would have bled to death. So yeah, I mean like I could just keep going and going and going. I feel like sometimes people look at it and go, you real man? But yeah, I'll just have you here for too long if you want to hear more of those stories.
Do you reckon your desire for adrenaline and experience is what fuels your business endeavors more than anything?
100%. Like I always say this, I'm like, money's a byproduct of my life. That makes sense. Yeah. So like if a situation comes up with like, you know, you're going to go travel with a bunch of rappers to New Zealand, Samoan rappers that are effectively, you know, maybe involved in gangs or not, allegedly. Yeah. Do you want to go do that? I'm like, that could be a cool gun. Yeah. So like the motivation for me is like, or someone's like, you know, do you want to come to Queensland? We're going to do fishing off the back of a boat, go diving this fucking reef or whatever. I'm like, I'm in, you know, like it's for me, it's like I want to entertain my life, and from a byproduct of that, some which way, shape, or form, people have been paying me to do it. Yeah, like so, and because of that, like I come up with these creative ideas. But effectively, what I want is like, if someone, I literally said this the other day. So someone said, I will pay your bills, and like you know, you can do what you want all the time, but you can just live an extreme and extravagant lifestyle. I would sign that dot straight away. I don't want to be a millionaire. Yeah, like I just want to be a dude who has crazy stories, which I am now. And I want to fucking continue to live those crazy stories and find myself in more and more crazy situations. Like I want people to die, and like it's already happening now, kind of. But when I die, people go, "That guy fucking lived a life, man." Yeah. But I need to fund those ideas so that I work. So I'm funding these things so that I can go do more crazy shit. But like I don't give a fuck about the money. Like I don't want a yacht. I don't want a Lambo. Like if I had the money, I wouldn't buy those things. I'd buy extreme experiences. I'd probably go fucking look for a Yeti or like go fishing in the Amazon. Like that stuff powers me, not. No. Material shit. I couldn't give a fuck about material shit. Yeah, like that's how I am.
You've travelled the world, you mentioned.
I have, yeah.
What's your 3 favourite countries you've been?
I like Italy. So Italy is fucking elite. I stayed at this place called Lake di Garda. It's like this on the border of Switzerland and thingy. Yeah. And you sort of ate pizza and just like hung out, and it was like crystal clear water, and it was just the life. I liked Mexico. I went there with my missus and I dive. So I was doing like cave diving and shit. So I was diving all through.
Oh, fuck that, bro. I don't know how the fuck you want to do that.
I've done it in Australia too, but yeah, I did that for a bit. And then I was like,
is it in Victoria or South Australia?
South Australia, I've done it, yeah.
Where they have the cave in like the middle of the land, but?
Yeah, so you just jump, you like go down into like a paddock and you go down. There's 2 of them. So there's going to be more. They're going to open up a whole bunch, but I've done it like 2 times and then 3 or 4 times the other one. Yeah. So I've done that, and then I did Mexico was sick, but again, tacos, like fucking food was mad, tequila's yum, like it's just a beautiful place. The people are really nice. And then Canada, I spent like 6 weeks there snowboarding. Yeah. And we did like a road trip from like Vancouver all the way through to Alberta, and that was mad. My favorite thing there was probably ice fishing. So like we took like an ogre and like did the hole, and we're catching fish and shit. I was like, this is fucking sick.
Yeah, that's mad.
But yeah, like you spirit, like every time I get money, man, I just buy a holiday. Yeah. And if I buy a business, it's because like I want to make more money so I can go on more holidays.
Yeah. You're just preaching to the choir.
But I didn't travel till I was 24.
Yeah, see, I first travelled when I was 22. Bear in mind, COVID took 2 years off my life.
Yeah, true.
But when I first travelled, I did Tomorrowland, I did Ultra
Yeah.
in Europe, Croatia. Like, I'm half Italian, so Italy's obviously one of my favourite countries to be in, but I only went to Rome. But we did Croatia, stayed in Split during Sail Week.
Yeah, I've heard that's mad.
Bro, best time of my life. And then last year I went to Vietnam with a few of the boys.
Oh, Vietnam's fucking elite too. I love that joint. Did you go north or south?
Both.
Yeah,
Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi.
Did you do Sapa?
Nah.
I did that. That was mad.
Yeah. See, and we want to do Hajang Loop. Well, I'm going back.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do Philippines. I'm going to
Done
that.
Philippines. Philippines is elite.
Did you go to the village where they have, what's the word to describe it? They have an expanded amount of time they can spend underwater. So like these people can spend like up to 10 minutes
Oh,
underwater.
I've seen it online. I went to a place that was like they had restaurants and they only appeared when the tide was out. That was cool.
Yeah.
They had all seafood and they had barbecues and you'd eat there and shit. I was doing like deep diving with the locals and stuff, like trying to catch sand and shit. Philippines is mad. Like everywhere's mad. But it's fucking traveling is the go. Yeah, and like, but I didn't do it because I was poor. Yeah, and so my family, we never went anywhere. I think we went to Queensland once when I was growing up. Like, and that was because my mum must have got a compo claim or some shit.
Yeah.
So I hadn't really even been on planes and stuff like that. So I think for me, I'm trying to make up for lost time. But I've been to like 27 countries or some stupid like that.
What's next, you reckon?
For me,
Yeah, country-wise.
for
traveling.
Traveling. I don't know. I want to go to Machu Picchu, I reckon. So that's my next one. I think I'm going to do the south and then do Machu Picchu. But like my kids, bro, like I've got 2 kids. Yeah. My daughter's been to like 12 countries. And she's like crazy. 7. So and they've been to like Europe, Philippines, like all these different places. So I just want them to have the life that I never got to.
Problem with Peru at the moment is the civil unrest. They had an uprising last year.
I didn't know that.
Bro, bad. Like
Okay,
proper
maybe
bad.
I'll have to stop for a
There
bit
was
there.
2 Aussies that got caught up in it. Like a complete political uprising.
Yeah. Well, another one is like only real line I have left on my bucket list. I want to go fishing in the Amazon. So like you can get like these boats and they look for anacondas and shit. So I want to go there. It's like 7 days. Apparently it's a bit rough, but you can catch like piranhas and all these like fucking monster fish basically. So that's the next thing. I'm probably not on my list, but like that's the next thing on my bucket. And then after that, I don't know. We'll see where we go.
What about for Danny Grant?
I don't fucking know. I'm riding this weird ride of people being interested in me for a little bit, which is kind of cool. See what the opportunity that brings, bro. Like, but I've got big goals, man. Like, I want to like turn some of these stories that I tell about or stories that I know that I can't talk about into like some form of like Netflix show or fucking a doco. No, not a doco, but like a TV show or a book or some shit. I want to, like, I'd love to make a movie. I'd love to write a book about my stuff, but I know that I have to get more, like, I have to keep doing this if I want to get those opportunities. So this is sort of like, I'm doing this now so that I can eventually do these things that I want to do and get to, but create more. I fucking love doing YouTube, man. Like YouTube's sick. I really rate that. So
Yeah, same.
I want to do
Love
more
it,
of that. If I could get paid to do that, that'd be sick. And then
Surely you'd qualify for revenue.
I'm making money off it already, but like I can't, can't quit my day job sort of thing. I love the alcohol company. It's cool, but I just don't like structure, which sounds weird. So because I sort of effectively kind of have to be accountable 9 to 5. And it sounds like a biggest whingy thing ever, but I just hate it.
Yeah.
So like I will probably still own it, but I'll probably step out of it and then hopefully the next 6 months to a year. And then I'll sort of just be like a creative director. So it won't be as reliant on me because I still want to have these freedoms and be able to like, go fishing in the Amazon sort of thing. So, and then get back into music. The festival thing, like Hello Sunshine's fucking huge to me. We're doing Brisbane next year. So we're doing Melbourne, Brisbane. I want to turn that into like a landmark thing that's like around for the next 20 years and it becomes like the next Day in the Green or Red Hot Summer or whatever. I want to do that and I want to start developing artists again too. Like, so I have the time to do it because you need a lot of time. So get back into music, get back into festivals, but not have to worry about it as an income. If that makes sense. So who fucking knows, bro? Like every single day at the moment is changing. So tomorrow I could just, I don't know, we'll see what opportunity comes and just hopefully some more crazy stories and some crazy yarns to come.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Thanks for hopping on, brother.
You're a legend, bro. Thank you.
Appreciate you hopping on. Thank you for buying hella stuff.
That's all right, bro.
It's so cool.
Full early supporter.
Yeah.
Thanks for making mad hats.
Yeah, oh, fuck, my pleasure.